He was a morbidly obese surgeon destined for an operating table and an early death. Now he's a rebel MD who is fabulously fit and fighting to make America healthy again. This is Stay Off My Operating Table with Dr. Philip Ovadia.
All right, welcome, folks. It's the Stay Off My Operating Table with Dr. Philip Ovadia, who is recording today via hotspot because his house in Florida is still without internet access. Bill, I'm glad that you at least have a house.
Yes, exactly. We've come through the two hurricanes better than most, and things are mostly back online, but still, for some reason, our internet provider hasn't gotten us back up yet, but we will persevere.
We will endeavor to persevere. Well, introduce our guest to us.
Yeah, really excited to have Danielle Santon with us today. We met Danielle at the Hack Your Health conference now, I guess a few months ago. Time flies, but doing some really interesting stuff with her company that we're going to talk about, and has a background I think that will be interesting for people to hear about. Before we maybe jump into all of the details, Danielle, why don't you give us a little bit of the story as to how you got into the metabolic health space and the metabolic health business.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it. My name's Danielle Santon. My husband and I created our company Fuel Forever based on my own health journey. We can go deep dive into that, but 10 years ago, I was misdiagnosed and just went down a very difficult path. And I really had to fight for my health and fight for the right diagnosis. And after really going into my sleep, my hormones, my fitness, we created products based on what worked for me during that transition period. And now we're 3 years in and just completed our 6th product, which is a healthy snack on the go, high protein, high fiber. And so it's been a great experience, and I'm happy that my health journey is helping other people, especially my mental health process, because I think it's something that needs to be talked about. There's a lot of shame that, people have, and I'm very proud of my story. And I help a lot of women with hormone health, physical health. I'm almost 50 and I'm in the best physical shape, both mentally and physically, but I also work at it. So I think that's something that's important to talk about as well.
Yeah, definitely. And, so often we hear a similar story, if not the same story, from guests on this podcast, both practitioners and non-practitioners, that oftentimes come to the sort of metabolic health space broadly because they're having their own health struggles and they're not getting the answers, through the traditional medical route. So maybe talk a little bit about what you were struggling with, what you went through with sort of the traditional approach, and what contrast that with what ultimately led to your improvements.
So about 9 years ago, so I was about 39 years old, and I started experiencing some severe depression, suicidal ideation, which was very unexpected because I was very happy. I was a social worker, high school counselor. I had background. I have my master's in counseling, so I'm very aware of mental health. And I started experiencing this. And so I went to this, a doctor that I've known for a very long time, psychiatrist, and he diagnosed me as bipolar. And at first I didn't really understand. And so I really deep dived into being bipolar. That's my label. Okay. And so I started getting prescribed heavy medication. I was having sleep issues. So then more Ambiens on top, anti-seizure, lithium, you name it. And I keep getting worse and worse. I have my stomach, irritable bowel. I have, I'm having issues with sleeping, even with the Ambien. And this is going on for a while. And I'm still depressed. So at one point I said, how am I still depressed? And this also, to be, personal, I also had to be in a few mental hospitals because I couldn't control the mental health side of things. I didn't have control of the safety for myself. And so on all of these, occasions of hospital visits, I finally just said, why am I still depressed? And I'm on all these medications. So I went to a functional medicine doctor. And the first meeting, he said, how old are you? And I said, I'm 39. He said, when did your mom start menopause? And I said, I think she was around her 40s. And he said, you're in perimenopause. I bet you have no hormones. So we went and checked my hormones. I had 0 progesterone, 0 testosterone. My estrogen was low. Everything was flat. And he said, this is why you're having issues with your mental health, with your sleep. And then we deep dove into the filling in nutritional gaps. And he said, you're deficient in magnesium. All these things kind of started coming together. And I was so happy that I fought for my health, because I really I would not be here today. I would still be labeled bipolar. And then I'd be going through, I'm in menopause now, but I would be in really a difficult position. I've been on bioidentical for now 10 years. And I'm on 0 medication.
So you were able to get off all of the antidepressants and all the other psychiatric medications once you basically got your hormones fixed and kind of got to the root cause of that. Were there other things that went into your healing besides just the bioidentical hormones?
Yes. So the gut health was a big part of my journey. And that's another reason our company is just really focusing on putting good ingredients in your body and healing my gut, really focusing on foods that would support, a healthy gut. I took away all processed foods. I did try keto during the process because from my research, the mental health aspects of keto, the higher fat was something that I was really interested in. It was something they used to actually use in mental hospitals. And so I did do that for a while. I didn't do well with my body for that. I gained a lot of weight. And I think that's because of my liver and all the medications. So that it worked mentally. It just didn't work for my body. So I tried that for a year. I did a chelation, heavy metals. I mean, I did everything possible to try red light therapy, cold shot. I mean, anything to help my mental health. I tried. And so it was definitely a journey. It took a lot of hard work. It almost felt like a full-time job. It probably would have been easier just to continue all those terrible drugs, but I was like, I had to fight for my health. And I tell women, my OB said to me, you're not that low on your hormones. And I just didn't understand that. And then when I went to my functional medicine doctor, he said, that's not true. And so I'm glad that I just didn't stop trying to figure out how there's a reason why I'm not happy. There's a reason. And the gut mind connection is so powerful. And I learned really that had to be a focus, and it still is a focus. It's still a big part of my life. And my hormone health is a big part of my life. Keeping my stress, limiting my stress, focusing on my sleep, all those things. You can't just get healthy and go, okay, I'm good. I can't, I don't need to work on it. I can just go on cruise control. No, you have to keep going. And you also have to keep, the food. I'm healthy lifestyle. It's every day. There's not something, it's not a plan here, plan there. It's just the way I live. But that's a priority for me because my happiness is my number one thing I want in life. So I have to work at it.
I love this. I don't know why it tickles me so much, but I do. I've got a friend who's just going through hell right now. Absolute hell. And it's not physiological, it's relational. But we all want to be happy. It's just not that big a deal. We want to be happy. And I love it that oftentimes the solution to what feels like intractable problems is nutritional. I wish this guy's solution was nutritional. So I think this would be a good time to talk about your products. And the reason I'm asking is because I actually use one of them. So tell us about how your Fuel Forever products got developed.
So my husband is really the mastermind. So he is an RN and his dad was a pharmacist, and so a compounding pharmacist. So he learned at an early age about compounding, working with his dad, sourcing. And so when I started going through my health journey, I was addicted. I mean, Ambien was the only way I could sleep. And I hated it. I hated it because I had 2 young kids. I had to wake up. I was groggy. It was terrible. So my husband and I, we just went and tried everything. And yes, I was deficient in magnesium. So when you are going to put magnesium in your body, it's going to make you relax. But then I felt like there was things missing with just magnesium only. I felt like this anxiety when I go to bed, oh gosh, it's 10. Oh gosh, it's 12. Oh, it's 1. I have to wake up at 6. This is not good. So there was this anxiety part of it. So we started mixing in different things for calming, like glycine, ashwagandha, lemon balm, and just to make the process like a soothing journey. And I'll say hands down, this being in the supplement industry is not something, this is new for my husband and I, but we create products that really work and that are just needed. We're not going down the road of all these other, trends. We're just sticking with products that we know work. Magnesium is a power. And then on top of everything else, it started making me go to sleep. So we were like trying all different ingredients. And then we figured it out. And then I was going through my chelation with heavy metals. And I said, there must be a natural chelation. So we started researching that, and we added cilantro and chlorella to remove heavy metals, just very gentle while you're sleeping. We wanted to, because not everybody has access to do a heavy metal detox. I mean, you really don't. And so we felt like just a gentle one at night. It's a delicious tea. And it's something that works. It is, I love saying my dad's old school Italian. And I said, could you give me a review on Amazon? And he said, I have to see if it works first. So about 2 months later, he texted me, he said, I just want to let you know I did a review. And the review says it works. And so, and he's 81. He takes it 2 scoops. He doubles up, which is great. And it's something that works for everybody. My kids take it. I would say that would be the one that I see the most benefit out of everything. So that's probably and it's near and dear because when you can't sleep and you're already have a mental health issue, there's so much anxiety. And I feel so sorry for people. I sleep like a baby now. And yes, progesterone does help as well, but I sleep like a baby. I have no problems at almost 50 years old. I have 0. I go through the night, and most women are not having that same situation. So that's our first one that I really, and it's special to me.
And it's called Sleep.
It's called Sleep, Fuel Forever Sleep. And then we have the other one is really cool. So it's a hydration with electrolytes, creatine monohydrate, and essential amino acids all in one. What we were seeing is a lot of these companies were just doing electrolytes only. And we felt like, why are you paying $45 for just electrolytes? Like, I would want everything. Instead of having 3 bottles, why not have everything together? And also creatine is such a powerful supplement, so well studied. And also with the mental health, there's PubMed studies showing the mental health component. Why is that not something that people are not using as part of their daily life? And now all you hear online is creatine monohydrate. Everyone's talking about it. We've had it for 3 years. And I love it because everything that's now we're talking about, we were doing this years and years ago. And I have also been doing sleep, with magnesium and creatine 10 years ago. So it's nice to see that's where it's going, because it should be, not everyone needs a supplement, but there are really beneficial, certain ones that I would say are a must.
Yeah, I'd love to dig into that a little bit because the creatine, you do hear it talked about more, but it's still mostly in the context of, helping with muscle building and, as a, using it around your workouts. But the mental neurocognitive effects of it are, very interesting as well. So talk a little bit about that science, and the neurocognitive effects of creatine and maybe, what you think proper dosing might be for it and
Yes.
go into that for us.
And my husband's the guy that all knows all the details and all that. But the one thing that it's the most well-studied supplement out there. And so when I talk about supplements, I really look at what's been studied the most and what's the most impactful. And a PubMed study came out with the mental health components of helping people with depression and severe anxiety. And so I do feel like while it's something that's out there, could it be more explored? Yes, the cognitive side, but it's really showing promising help. And our dosing is 2.5 grams because we wanted people to there's a lot of women that maybe feel that the creatine there's a stigma on it. Oh, it's going to make me bloated. So we dosed it at a lower dose. So people can start taking it and feel like, okay, maybe I'm not having any physical effects with the body, maybe some water retention. And then if they want to go to the 5, which I recommend 2.5 to 5 grams daily. And so then our supplement, you can just double it. Or if you feel like you already have creatine, it's typically 5 grams. So it's definitely something. I think when we talk about supplements, a lot of times everyone's talking about the exterior, how you look, oh, my body, my muscles. But I want to start focusing on inside. And yes, we love like looking a certain way. We want to build muscle, but let's talk about also what's happening with our mental health. So let's do a 2-part. Muscle building is, yes, definitely longevity, but if you're not happy, so let's do it 2-part. Let's focus on the mental health and also the muscle building. So I like to have that approach when I talk to people, because yes, it's great to have muscles, but if you're miserable and not happy, it's not going to promote longevity. That's just kind of how I am, because I've lived this. I know that life.
How long did it take you to recover?
Oh gosh, I would say a full year of hard work, therapy. It took me a full year to get off the medication, but I would say realistically 4 years of just nonstop, not just really focused on everything, quality sleep, stress. And even now, I would say I'm 9 years, 10 years, I'm kind of looking at my life now, even with the business, it's very stressful. And I'm trying to pull back a little because, my mental health is the most important thing of my life. If I'm not happy, my husband, my family, it's not going to be healthy. So still to this day, if things are too much, I pull back because I have to make it a priority. So I would say it took me years, but it's a lifetime of incorporating all these lifestyle hacks, as you would say, to keep going, to keep being happy.
And just to make sure I understand, really all that had happened was you just entered perimenopause and your natural hormone levels had plummeted.
And
because you were misdiagnosed, you were living in that state for quite some time.
And to be fair to the doctor, we didn't have a lot of hormone health 10 years ago. There wasn't a lot of talk about bioidentical and, it just wasn't talked about. And I think it's not his fault. I did present as a bipolar. I was very erratic. I was severely depressed, enough where I was in multiple hospitals, and it wasn't like hospitals like Beverly Hills where you're like, oh, it's a spa. No, these were real mental health hospitals that I was surrounded with people, but they didn't know where to put me because I was so low I was rock bottom with depression. I couldn't get out. I had nothing. And that's while a lot of women are experiencing this, there's a lot of women that go through perimenopause and are fine. A lot are not. There's a lot of mental health. That's like the first sign of perimenopause.
Yeah. And I guess, first let me ask, what your doctors, and maybe, the psychiatric doctors that you were involved with, psychiatrists and psychologists, what their reaction has been to your recovery, right? Because typically in the mental health world, you don't really talk about recovery, right? You talk about management. And the hope is that, with the right combination of medicines, we can sort of manage the symptoms. But we don't really think of people being essentially cured from things like bipolar disorder and getting off of medications and no longer having symptoms like you have been able to do. So what's their reaction to that been?
This is actually an interesting little story. So my psychiatrist is retired, but while I was going through my journey, so I was seeing a biomedical, functional medical doctor, and I was also seeing the psychiatrist at the same time. I had a lot of fear because my psychiatrist was saying a lot of bipolar people feel like, they don't take their medication and they, this is a big thing. And I had a lot of fear. So I would see my psychiatrist once a month and also see my functional medicine doctor. I did not tell him, but I was weaning off the medication, starting the therapy. Then a year later, I charted every day. He would ask me to chart. I would chart my moods. Showed him. A year later, I said, I need to tell you something. I've been seeing a functional medicine doctor for a year and I'm no medication for 1 year. And you would think he would say, oh, this is great. It was your hormones. And he said, get out.
Wow.
He said, get out. And I said, okay. And I just will never forget that feeling. I went, okay. And he goes, you're going to die. You're going to relapse. And I went, okay, I'm sorry. So I left the office and I was seeing a counselor. And this is also important because when you're going through this, you really need to see someone, a professional. So I was seeing a counselor for years. And she actually said, she graduated me. She said, you're done. You don't need me anymore. You have all the skills. And I remember just going, God, I can't believe this is where I'm at. And then just a couple years ago, I'm in a hospital with really sick people. If people would see the mental health crisis, that's a whole nother podcast. But what I saw and what I experienced and what these people are going through and what I went through it's so sad. But I also had the resources. I had a great team, and not everybody has that. And now I don't need anybody saying good job. I say it to myself because I know I worked really hard and I am proud of myself. I really am. And I could have been a completely different person. And I also feel like that pain led me to a wonderful chapter of life. And I'm a completely different person. So I would say pain is a gift. It was a gift because I'm better off now.
We'll talk about.
I was just going to say, amazing to hear that.
Yeah,
sorry,
absolutely.
Jack.
Talk about what was the recovery? I'm assuming there was an exercise element, a chemical element, a food element. You talked about stress. We're going to have folks who are listening to this who are dealing with their own particular form of storm, and speak to those folks.
I always like to say mental health is like you're in quicksand and you've got to figure out. I've heard you can get out of quicksand. And I realized, how am I going to get out of this? So I'm going to have my toolbox. So I know my toolbox, and my toolbox incorporates healthy foods. Now, healthy foods for me is I tend to stay with leaner protein, vegetables, fruits, healthy fats, minimally processed a little, and then exercise, weights daily, limited. I like walking. I don't do as much perimenopause. For me, I do better with the higher intensity. So I like to walk with purpose. My husband and I always say, walk, with purpose, walk for 30 minutes, but just have some effort. So the daily activity, I did watch what I ate. I did really focus on, healthy ingredients, protein intake. That was huge. I really got very into how much protein I need and what lifestyle and foods work for me. That's another thing. What works for me with certain vegetables or fruits or whatever might not work for you. That's where your journey, this is your life. So everybody was saying, oh, you should eat eggs. I am allergic to eggs. I found out with my functional medicine doctor. So I can't even have eggs, but I was having them because, eggs are good. And so you're supposed to have them. And my gut was a mess. So listening to yourself and finding your life, what works, what foods work for you is my biggest recommendation. Also, when you're in these moods, try anything. I have a red light therapy. I still use cold plunge. I don't have a fancy cold plunge, but I have a cold shower. And, there's times where I have used that. And it is something that really helps. And when you're in a low mental state, you just try everything. You have your toolbox and you go, that worked, journaling. There's so much. You have to be the driver and you have to create your own toolbox. So, okay, I'm feeling this way. What's going on? And then also the sleep. Sleep was the biggest. If I didn't start sleeping, I don't think that this would be where I am at today. I mean, the quality sleep has to be a priority. Saying that you can only have 5 hours of sleep a night, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And so you have to make that became a full-time job in itself. I look at sleep as it's like going to work still. So now I still have a ritual. I go to bed. I always am in bed by 9:00. I'm limiting any activity. My daughter wants to show me videos and I'm like, no, I can't be stimulated like that. I need to get off the phone. I need to unwind. I like taking baths. I like getting my sleep tea ready. It's a process. Similar to getting ready for work or getting ready for the day or going to work, you have a process of things. And I think you have to do that as well with sleep. It can't just be like, oh, okay, I'm going to go to sleep now. There has to be a journey. There has to be whatever works for you. I tried everything, lavender, everything there was, every oil I bought, every blanket, and then I just figured out kind of what worked for me. For me, the hour before bed has to be something that prepares you for sleep. And that's probably one of my biggest strength now, as far as, really going down that journey of mental health. The sleep has to be there. And the second I start getting stressed and I notice I'm up, or I maybe had a hot flash, okay, what's going on? What's going on with my estrogen? Did I forget my estrogen cream? Did I forget something? And that's where you have to be really, we pay people, we go to people for everything. But I realize I know this information because I've studied it on myself. I know what works. And I feel like I want women and people to have control of what of their bodies. And I know that sounds like people go, okay, no, really get control of what works. And I think we forget that. We want other people, give me the diet, give me this. What works for you? Have you tried this? And really knowing yourself. That's one thing I will say. I know what works, but I didn't know before. So it's possible. It just is work. And that's, again, it's hard. It's hard learning to sleep again. It's hard losing weight. It's hard. You want the easy way out. I get it. I've been there. I want that quick 6-week diet. Let's do it. But it's just temporary. And the more you can make this a lifestyle and know your lifestyle, you're going to be so much more successful.
And, as you look back, maybe at the beginning when you were getting diagnosed with depression and bipolar and all of that, can you look back now and see maybe some clues that you missed and maybe your doctors missed as well, that, that this was more of a hormonal issue, more of a metabolic issue. And I'm just thinking about, obviously there are people who have, bipolar, depression, these serious psychiatric conditions, that is not going to be a hormone problem, right? And, bioidentical hormones aren't going to fix them. Perhaps there are some that metabolic therapy won't help, although the more evidence we get, the more it seems metabolic therapy should be a mainstay in psychiatric conditions. And, of course, we've had Christopher Palmer and we've had Georgia Ede, both, really have been getting that issue to the forefront. But, is it for perhaps a woman out there who's, kind of around that same age, and that is a pretty common age when these things start getting diagnosed in women, are there some other clues that now you can look back and say, yeah, I should have been thinking about my hormones?
I think now, knowing what I know now about hormone health, and then the fact that there's so much information about it now, I would be so much easier to go, oh, okay, because a lot of women were talking about it. Back then, it really wasn't discussed, and bioidenticals still had a little stigma. So like I remember my mom stopping it when she, in the 80s. And so there was still that stigma. If I had to look back, I think the common things were the sleep, the lack of sleep. I would say waking up. I wasn't having hot flashes then, but just could not sleep. Like it just was a very dramatic, I just couldn't go to sleep. My brain was very active. I would say anxiety happened. I'd never had anxiety. And it's something, I'm in the, I have a counseling degree. This is what I did. So I never had a lot of anxiety. That was something new. Being tired. I was constantly tired. So now I realized, okay, what was that? And it was almost crippling exhaustion. And that's a sign as well. But again, it was just a long time ago. So we just didn't have the awareness as we do now. And now we're just so lucky to have so much discussion and so much education about hormone therapy and getting help, and the positives to it really outweigh the negatives. I think, and again, those sort of little signs for me were probably, now I look and go, okay, it was probably something else. But then at the same time, not to be hard on myself, with mental health, you get tired. You're depressed. You don't really want to do a lot. It can be easy to misdiagnose. And the bipolar was very erratic. My one mood this day, and that's also hormones. It fluctuates. So it's hard.
I think it's fascinating that something that presents as mental health, you've got a problem with your thinking, boils down to your body chemistry. I've always been fascinated. You're not the only person I've ever run into who's dealt with the same thing. It's amazing. I think it's misdiagnosed, and it seems to be. And I guess it's the toxins in our environment make it worse. I don't know. I'm speculating here at this point, Phil.
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of things in medicine, right? We focus on the symptoms and we do things to try and treat the symptoms, and we don't think about, the root cause, what's causing the symptoms in the first place, and it's interesting, so a lot of the psychiatric medications, right? They're altering that brain chemistry, different neurotransmitters, different receptors, in the brain that we're trying to kind of act upon, with these medications. And again, not thinking about, what went awry in the first place, right? What caused these issues. And your journey sounds pretty typical, right? Because you start a medication for one symptom, and that might lead to another problem, another, side effect or off target effect or whatever it is. And so now we're adding the medication to deal with that, the effects of the first medication. And, soon enough, you find yourself in this sort of, cycle, or in this place where you're now on multiple medications, and it really becomes hard to tell, what's the disease, what's the medication. And like I said, oftentimes we just don't step back and say, what caused this in the first place? And can we look at things like hormones, like nutrition, and, how much of that can we fix? And I think the more we're learning in the metabolic health space, and, the conference we were at, all the excellent presenters there, physicians, clinicians, scientists, we're all discovering that probably the vast majority of our medical problems are, really go back to the basics: sleep, nutrition, activity, stress. And that really, if people were empowered to focus on those things, I think we could largely eliminate a lot of these problems.
It's so true. And the root cause that's what got me every day. It was like, okay, I'm on all these medications. What is the root problem of this? And I look at that for everything in my life. If something happens, like it's very interesting. I found out I have a red meat issue where when I get this rash after having red meat. But I didn't realize it. I went, what is this rash on my finger? Why does this keep happening? And it was the organ meats. I have some issue with them. I'm allergic to the protein powders, and I looked at all of them, and it's really fascinating. But if I just said, oh, let's just put a cream on it, it's just going to keep coming back. So I kept thinking, what is the root cause? And kind of process of elimination, I found out what I have an issue with. And so I think that is really key. But I also feel food phobia and fear is something that I'm also careful with. I lived a very clean life in that my mom was making our own food, making our own bread, our fruit roll-ups. I've never had a Twinkie. I've never had any real processed foods as a kid. And I would say that while I'm very happy I live that way, I also feel like the good and the bad is something I try not to do, because that's kind of how I was raised with foods. And so I do have a little more food freedom, and I try to live that 90-10, where it's 90%, completely clean, but then 10% maybe something that's just a little off, that maybe is not something I would normally have, but I want to incorporate. Because I think the fear can get people when it's, oh, that's bad, or that, so I think it becomes, there's a lot of things bad out in the world, when you're walking outside, or, the air quality, or the perfume you're putting on, or, alcohol, or whatever. So I think that's something I like, being careful with the food part of it. Another thing too, I just brought up the alcohol. I did stop alcohol I stopped during the whole process. So I'm 9 years alcohol free, and not that I had a problem, but alcohol was something that was not helping my mental health. So that was another big, that was another big lifestyle change.
This keeps niggling at the back of my brain. Heavy metals, chelation. What the heck happened? Any idea how you got exposed?
Yes, I think it's the water. My dad had found out he had H. pylori, so that was a sign. And then my brother got his heavy metals. We had the exact same high heavy metals in 3 different areas. And we think it was the water that we live where we were. And so that I chelated about 2 times. It's not something you can just go, oh, I'm going to chelate this week. It's very aggressive. It's very hard on your body. For me, it was a lot of work. It can also interfere with your hormones. So you have to be careful. You have to do it with a doctor. I do not recommend doing it on your own. So I wanted to slowly remove the heavy metals, and it took 6 months, there's a process that my doctor put me on, and you start with clay and you start with just very gentle, and then you kind of work your way up. I've done it twice. The last time I did it was really hard on me hormonally. It just really affected me. So right now I'm just trying to do it the natural way. But it's definitely something that helped. I mean, could I say that, I think it's a combination of everything I did to help my mental health, but it definitely is something. Removing them is, you don't want it in your body. So the more you can remove it, the better. But I think a lot of people probably have heavy metals. I mean, I think it's probably pretty common, especially back when, I'm the water that I had. I mean, you just don't know. So now I have, water system here. I do reverse osmosis. It's just something, that's how I live. Yeah.
Talk to us about these products that the folks can buy, because I'm a big fan of one of them.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we have our sleep supplement. We have Fast, which is our great, it's a workout. You can use it pre, post, during the day. If you're fasting, it's a great product. It's a fantastic product during the fast, and it's called Fast. And then I created our collagen bars. So I was just tired of what was on the shelves. I was so tired of going to the grocery store and seeing a protein bar and going, that's a candy bar. It's not a protein bar. And I was tired of the artificial ingredients. And I wanted to create something special that people felt like, okay, I'm on the go. I want to get my fiber intake. I want to get my protein, and I want it clean. And I made it. I made 3 flavors. It's been about a year. It's been a great experience. It's also been one of those experiences that it's hard to change the way people think about protein bars, because the top protein bars are all processed. So you're competing with real big name brands that are just, yeah, of course it's going to taste good. It's got a lot of garbage in it. So I'm like, for me, it's hard, because I always joke, I'm like, it really would have been a lot easier to make a processed bar and sell out, but I won't do that. So I'm staying true to what I believe in as someone that's in the health space. I want to create more products, but I also want to see if people are going down that road of really wanting healthier snack options. Not everybody has access to, just having a chicken breast, as a snack. They don't have Whole Foods. I would prefer Whole Foods, but when I'm in a situation, I like my bars. So I know I feel like my gut isn't like most of these bars I had terrible gut issues from. I don't have that. So it's something that I'm proud of. So yeah, it's been a year. We got our Amazon Choice badge. We're just in California now. We're in over 80 grocery stores. It's been really great experience. I've loved this part of it.
Okay, so we got chocolate. I see we got chocolate almond, which I'm already a fan of. Lemon coconut. We'll see.
Yeah, that's a sneaky
Peanut
good
butter
one.
oatmeal.
That's Mindy Peltz's favorite, is the lemon coconut.
Okay.
And then we have
Go for the chocolate almond, I think.
That's a great one. And then peanut butter oatmeal as well. And so, yeah, it's an alternative, and it's high fiber, low sugar. I just wanted, I wanted something healthier for people. And while it's still a processed bar, it's the best you can get. And that's one thing, unless it's a high sugar honey, which I love. We actually have honeybees, and we love honey, but a lot of times people are wanting the lower sugar bars. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
I'm looking at the ingredients here: peanut butter, protein blend, chicory root fiber.
Yeah. So it's high fiber. How you have, building a bar is I see
Oh my God, it's got kale and spinach in it.
I know. So the nice thing about is when you make bars, you need some type of filler. And I was not going to do what they wanted me to do with the soy crisp. And so I was really creative in trying to put things in there that would fill a bar. And we're lucky because it's not a soft, it's not a chalky bar. It's a softer collagen bar. And the reason why I chose collagen, I actually use collagen and almond protein to make it a complete protein because collagen's missing tryptophan. So I added the almond. And the reason why I wanted collagen is I can't have dairy. A lot of people have a dairy issue. And I felt like plant-based was everywhere. And it tends to be a little more chalky for me.
Yeah.
So I wanted to try something that with the collagen and the almond, so it was still a complete protein, and then people could digest it well.
All right.
Yeah. I know. So I'm
I think you're not going to be able to make a bar that everyone's going to be happy with because everyone has their thing. But I think just having more options out there for people is always good. And, doing it the right way, trying to keep it as clean as possible is certainly commendable. And I know you do the same thing with the supplements. And like you said, they're products that you have found to be helpful first and foremost, and others are finding to be helpful. And, I think, like I said, having those options out there is great. So give people the website again.
Yeah, so it's Fuel, FUEL, the number 4, EVER.com. And we have when you order from our website, we always throw in 3 free samples of everything. We're very generous. We are a husband and wife company really on the mission. This is not something that we're driven based on creating good products. If we were not, we would be doing gummy bears and all that stuff. So we're very focused on just staying with the ingredients that we feel are necessary for longevity and a muscle preservation. So yeah, we're also our Fuel Forever on Instagram. And we appreciate the support. People have been fantastic because we are very driven for health reasons. And so people see our story and they see that we're just here to try to make a difference. And so we're really excited for the next chapter.
Yeah. And just to give people a little bit more reassurance, and we had Robin on before the Hack Your Health conference. And one of the things we talked about was the incredibly strict criteria she had for allowing food products to be at the, to exhibit at the conference. And so obviously you were able to meet those criteria, which speaks to your quality as well.
Yeah. And she actually called the fast supplement genius. She said your husband is genius that he made that. And he is. That fast supplement is spectacular. And
I haven't tried that. Okay.
The lemon lime is my favorite. And it's just, you're going for essential amino acids, you're going for creatine, you're going for electrolytes. You have it all in one. It's dosed where if you want to do more, you can do more.
I will say that I observed while we were in our booth next to you all that you all had no trouble getting people to try and keep trying your stuff.
Yeah, we have been blessed that people like our products and we have a loyal following. And we're also we're humble. For me, it's all about my mental health. And I tell my husband that at any point, if this affects mental health, affects the family, then we have to make some changes. And so it comes down to just educating people. And also not everybody needs a supplement. If this is not something that resonates, message me. And if it's mental health, I have a big platform on Instagram, and a lot of people, I always tell them it's not about buying my products. It's about, it's building a community. And it's also if I can help, my story can help someone, that's really where it comes down to. So while it's great, products are there, it's never been financially the whole reason.
Very good.
Excellent.
The company is fuelforever.com. Danielle Stanton has been our guest.
Thank you.
Danielle, I'm really glad we got to talk because I really am enjoying your sleep product, and I'm really wishing I had it last night. That was my fault. I just didn't do it. I didn't think about it. So I will tonight.
And it happens. It's very common. I forget, I'm the owner and I forget sometimes, but when you put it a part of your lifestyle and you remember, okay, that's something I take every day.
Yep. It's going back into the routine.
Oh, I'm happy you like it.
All right. For Dr. Philip Ovadia, this has been the Stay Off My Operating Table podcast. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you next time.
Chances are you wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you didn't need to change your life and get healthier. So take action right now. Book a call with Dr. Ovadia's team. One small step in the right direction is all it takes to get started. Contact us at ifixhearts.com/talk. That's ifixhearts.com/talk.